Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is go ahead and change the date to today's date, which is February 26th. Convert each of the following numbers. So the first conversion that we're going to do is a fraction to a decimal. When I convert a fraction to a decimal, what do I have to do, Darius Smith? Divide what by what? Good. So you're going to divide your numerator by your denominator. So when you take 9 divided by 8, what did you get?
1.
Say it again.
1.125.
Good. Okay. So when you're showing your work, I'm going to look for the work and I'm going to look for your equal signs to show that you're starting each step of your work. Okay? The next one, you have a number and you want to change a number to a percent or a decimal here to a percent. In order to change a number or a decimal to a percent, we can do this in two different ways. What's one way that I can do it, Rihanna? Multiply by. So I can take 1.1 times 100, and what do you get, Rihanna? 110%. Good job. Way to remember that percent sign. And then you're going to go ahead and box it. What's the other way that I can change this number to a percent? Kelsey?
Move the to the right twice.
Yeah, move the decimal to the right twice. So I move it once, twice. What do I put in that missing spot? A 0. So what's my answer, Kelsey? How about 110%? And box it. Good. So I don't care which method you use. You just have to make sure you show your work. So you can either show your work by taking the 1.1 times 100 like I did here, or you can go ahead and just show your work right like this. Does not matter as long as I see your work somewhere on that quiz or on that opener. Okay, the next one. We have a decimal, and we're changing a decimal to a fraction. Brendan, how do I change that decimal to a fraction? Of the last digit. So what place value is that last digit? It's a 5. And what place value is it in? What one is it? 10,000 you said? Because we have 10th, 100th, 1,000, 10,000. So my denominator is going to be, and then my numerator, 125. Basically, it's the number without the decimal point. Okay? And then the last step here is to simplify. Sometimes when you use the fraction button and you're simplifying, when it's 10,000, sometimes it gives you a decimal. This case, it does not. What does it give you as a fraction in simplest form? 1 over 80. Good. Now, let's say that it gave you a decimal. It wouldn't reduce it for you. By looking at these two numbers, what are they both divisible by? 5. So you could try to see if they're both able to be reduced by 5. If that doesn't work, what other number should you try? I think I heard it. What other number should you try to reduce by? 2. 2 or 5. Okay. Now we're changing a fraction to a percent. This is going to be a two-step process because first I have to change that fraction to a what? First I have to change the fraction to a, it's in your notes, decimal. And then I have to change that decimal to a percent. So how do I change a fraction to a decimal? Anybody? Yeah, so I'm going to take 5 divided by 8. And then how do I change a decimal to a percent? Times it by 100. So what's 5 divided by 8 times 100?
62.5%.
Good. Moving right along. Now, percent means out of 100. So anytime we're dealing with the percent, we're going to use 100 in some form. So this time, I'm going to change this percent to a decimal. Two ways that I can do this. How can I change this percent to a decimal? divide by, yeah, so I'm going to take 10 divided by 100, and what do you get? 0.1. There's your answer. The other method of changing 10% to a decimal is to move the decimal, which direction? To the left 2 places. Where do I put my decimal point? Because this number here doesn't have a decimal in it. If I'm going to move my decimal to the left twice,
Put the head.
not in the middle,
Put it behind the 0.
put it behind the 0. So I'm going to put it behind the 0 here and then move it to the left twice. So 1, 2. There's my decimal point. So I'm going to put 0.10. What should I put in front of that decimal point? A 0. And then do I need this other 0 behind the 1? Do I need it? No, I don't. Can I keep it there? Yeah, I could. All right, last one. Now I'm changing a percent to a fraction. So if I'm going to change a percent to a fraction, you guys already told me that percent means out of 100. What's my denominator going to be then? 100. What's my numerator? Yeah, it's the percent. So 95 over 100. Just looking at this, what are they both divisible by? 5. If you use your calculator to reduce, when you do 95 over 100 simplified is what?
19 over 20.
19 over 20.